We always start by installing the ceiling boards first because the wall boards will help to hold them in place. When you cut your boards to size, don't make them too tight to fit. You could have a lot of trouble getting them in. Just make sure you have a little bit of play all around so that it is easy to fit into place. Well, work on this 7-foot ceiling is rather easy. When they get 8, 9, 10 feet high, the ceiling becomes much more difficult. In all cases, you want to use some kind of support from the floor so that you can get a panel into place, lock it into place, and then go about attaching it to the joists. There are different possibilities for fasteners. Screws tend to be the preference for the ceiling, although some pros will stick with nails. You may have noticed that this panel is pre-marked as to where the joists are. Oh, whenever you make a mistake, be sure to pull the screw out. Otherwise, the loose screw will give you problems later with the finishing. Here the panel is tight to the joist, so he's just adding fasteners. If it was sagging a bit, he would have to push it up tight before driving in the fastener. The tool you see here is a professional drywall screw gun. You can accomplish the same thing by putting a dimpler attachment on your regular drill. There's a clutch that stops driving the screw at just the right depth, even if the tool is still turning. The fastener should stop just below the surface of the board without breaking the paper. If the fastener breaks the paper, install another fastener beside it. Now he's ready to remove the supports and finish with the fasteners. For the walls, most pros prefer to install the panels horizontally. The upper panel is installed first, but notice that he has set the panel on the floor and now he's going to place a few nails exactly lined up with all the studs. This is a little trick so that you don't have to mark the board to know where the studs are when they become hidden by the drywall itself. It also means that the nails are ready to be driven in when he lifts the panel up in the air, and he needs to both hold the panel and drive the fasteners. He lifts it into place, holds it there, and with one hand he simply secures it on the top. If you're using a hammer, make sure you're using one that has a waffle face. This keeps the hammer from slipping off the nails and damaging the panel. Always measure about 1/4 of an inch short because you don't want panels sitting on the floor. Oh, one more little trick. Before bringing in the next panel, mark the floor itself to identify the center of each stud. These little techniques avoid a lot of fasteners that might otherwise miss the studs, and it avoids having to measure and draw a lot of guidelines on the panels. There is a trick to lifting a panel off the floor and pushing it tight to the other panel. What you see here is called a lifter. It is a very simple wedge device that goes in under the center of the panel, and as you step on the back side of the device, it pivots so as to raise the panel up to the top, closing the gap between the panels. Now it's easy to keep the panel in place with your foot while both hands are free to install a few fasteners. How does a pro cut out a perfect fit for electrical boxes? He first measures and marks the panel for the approximate center of the electrical box. Then he lifts it to the ceiling and hangs it from the top right over the electrical box. With a drywall rotary cutout tool, he can plunge into the center of the electrical box, slide over till he hits the metal box. He then pulls a bit back to jump over the edge of the box to the outside and then follow around the box. The tool tip is smooth and simply rides on the outside of the box. The dust is blown inside the wall. This makes a perfect trace of the box, giving a perfect fit every time. A router with a proper bit can do the same job. If you have sound or thermal insulation in a wall, it will tend to push the drywall away from the studs. It is absolutely necessary to push the panel tight to the stud before driving the fastener. Fasteners cannot draw a panel to the stud. Before installing drywall for outside corners, you have to decide which corner bead you're going to use to finish the corner. Using metal or metal paper square beads, you overlap the drywall to make the square corner. But round bullnose beads will not fit over a square corner. For bullnose beads, both panels stop on the edge of the wood, leaving a space for the curve of the bullnose.